It is finally time for the rich, very rich, and the excessively rich to move to Marathon Cove. You are going to want to learn all of my tips and tricks I share in this very special episode. Hello everyone, my name is College Builder, and today I'm going to show you how to build and detail a luxury beachfront town in my series, Marathon Cove. We spent the past 6 episodes working up to this point today, and I am going to share with you my 25 tips for building a luxury beachfront town. We built out the first neighborhoods. We started our train line and industry. We built Marathon University, the region's premier liberal arts college. In the last episode, we built the town of Mission Beach in the middle of the peninsula. And near the very end of the peninsula, we set up Cape Vista. And now it's time to fill in the last empty space. The end of Cape Vista is home to the Estates, an exclusive neighborhood with all of the mansions, some big and some really big. First, we will build a community of mansions using the 4-unit-wide beachfront properties of both European and North American varieties. We are going to hand place these to make sure we get a good range of assets. Tip number 1, recolor the houses to fit your area. As this is Southern California inspired, we want to give them the color of Spanish Colonial architecture for that coastal look. Typically, these would have clay tile roofs in shades of red and orange. The exterior would be stucco painted with shades of white or very light tan. Tip number 2, expand the lot sizes. Don't be afraid to remove the fences that come with assets and add your own to make the lots bigger. We can extend the surface underneath and create the feeling of large plots of lands that fill the spaces on the map. We can try to pick a fence that matches the one that came with the original asset. For these grand homes, I also really like tall privacy hedges. If you have ever visited Newport, Rhode Island and seen the Gilded Age mansions, you know that many of them have a combination of walls and tall privacy hedges. We can imagine that this neighborhood has some of the industrial titans of Marathon Cove. Some are old money and some are new, but they all have a great deal of wealth that has allowed them to set up their estates on this very expensive land. Tip number 3, create fun lot shapes. The fun part about doing this with the curved roads is that we get to have some unusual lot sizes and layouts. But when expanding the lots like this, you can have a lot of fun and try new things. I like to build some really irregular looking lots. We can imagine that the roads in this area were built with contextual awareness. The curves follow the curve of the coastline, giving us an unusual design pattern. It makes building these mansions so much fun. By recoloring these assets and expanding their lots, we are creating the feeling of a wealthy community along the coast in Southern California. Perhaps this is an area like Rancho Palos Verdes outside of Los Angeles. The point is that we are creating unity in how these properties look, which is common for coastal communities, and we are giving them extra land to reflect that this is a luxurious area. Now it's time to go even bigger with the ultra wealthy. This is the top 1%. For these, we will use the signature buildings, both regular and beachfront varieties. These are not like the Newport mansions on Bellevue Ave, as none of them have the Gilded Age look, but they are a modern-day version. We will spread them out and create room between them so that we can expand their lot sizes. Using a combination of hedges and walls, we will build some massive lots that reflect the wealth of this neighborhood. The ones along the water have their own private beachfront, so you can imagine just how valuable their land will be. Unfortunately, most signature buildings cannot be recolored, so that will prevent us from giving them the Spanish Colonial color scheme. But I think that's okay. The European beachfront signature buildings already have that style, and the rest could be super modern mansions you sometimes find on the California coast. In our backstory, the region of Marathon Cove was attractive to early settlers due to its natural resources: a coastline for shipping, ore and gold in the mountains, fertile land for farming, marine life for fishing, and of course, the discovery of oil. The industrial area fueled early growth and created massive wealth. This peninsula in Marathon Cove was originally used for industry, but it was eventually sold off as Marathon University was founded. The land has some of the most beautiful views and stunning beaches, which naturally attracted all these people to move here. Speaking of beaches, it's time to build up the coastline so that this is really a luxurious beachfront community. We will start with our public beach using Sully's white sand surfaces. Tip number 4, layer the sand surfaces to create color variation. Sully has provided light, medium, and dark versions of the white sand. These can be placed on top of each other to create a gradient as you head down to the water. Tip number 5, provide beachfront parking. You can see our custom parking road we created for Oceanfront Drive. This provides easy access for tourists and locals to park along the beach. Tip number 6, create sand spillover using the sand decals. If you have ever parked in a lot along the beach, you know that sand always makes its way up into the parking lot. Tip number 7, blend the layers with decals. Sully's decals will help you hide the lines of your layers and create a natural look. Tip number 8, create breakwaters using boulders. This allows us to create dividing lines between some of the wealthy properties. Speaking of the mansions, it's a good idea for us to create some private beaches. These are for the ultra-rich on the inner side of the peninsula. We will use the same process, layering down the white sand beaches. Tip number 9, create patches of thin grass. You don't want to have all sand around your beach. By creating wild-looking areas with thin grass, you add to the realism of your beachfront build. Tip number 10, use oak trees for bushes. You can do this by sinking them into the ground. This has a fun effect of creating low ground cover bushes that are a bit wild looking. Tip number 11, blend the beaches into the lawns. Imagine that the sand is encroaching upon the manicured lawns. Perhaps the houses were even partially built on the dunes that once covered the area. Perhaps these homes are fighting erosion as the edges of the lawn are pulled out to sea a little bit each year. I really love the way you can layer sand down onto these very fine lawns. The multiple decals available from Sully are amazing. They have different sizes and thickness of sand so that you can blend them easily for a natural look. Hopefully, there is not too much erosion to threaten the stability of the mansions. We have one last public beach to fill in. This one is almost back around to Marathon University. That should take care of the basic design of our beaches. With our beaches nearly done, it's time for a few more details. Tip number 12, add lots of waves to create realism. Sully's seafoam decals are the perfect addition for your beaches. Our Southern California-inspired coastline should be a surfer's paradise. Lots of giant waves bringing in the locals and the tourists. As tourism has become more central to the economy of Marathon Cove, more shops have sprung up catering to the demands of surfers. People come from far and wide to enjoy the beaches. We will also create surf around on the inside of the peninsula on the private beaches. In reality, as you move to the leeward side of the peninsula, it would be more protected from the wind and surf, perhaps not as many waves, and certainly not as big. For the purpose of our detailing, we can continue to place the foam decals as it makes for a nice look, but we should acknowledge that the waves would not be the same. I love this last little public beach with the gentle curve and the unique curved parking road we built. I think it would be a calmer, less busy beach than the big one on the main side of the peninsula. Tip number 13, add yard details. Part of building a luxury beachfront community requires creating outdoor activities. People will spend time in their yards. Pools are very important. I particularly love tennis courts for luxury areas. Here, we will add some to the yards, but we will also create a public tennis exhibition area. Perhaps this is a town where tennis pros spend their winter to do training and prepare for the US Open or other competitions. You can download a pack of tennis court decals by Sully that are perfect for this. Just be sure to add the tennis court props. Tip number 14, add lots of palm trees. Since this is Southern California inspired, there will of course be a ton of palms. Using the line tool, we can place rows of them, sometimes at the same height and sometimes of varying heights. The palm trees definitely enhance the feeling that this is a luxury area. Tip number 15, use other types of trees sparingly. I love adding in the giant oak trees, but near the tropical beach, I only add in the oaks here and there so as not to overwhelm the lots. We can also add in some other sandy spots. I wish I had done more of this in the build to show that this was built on a sandy coastal area, but I am very happy with how it turned out. We are halfway through and have so much more to do. Let's turn now to detailing the city center of our beach towns. Tip number 16, use tree grates on streets and plazas in the city center for palm trees. This allows us to fill our beach town with lots of palm trees on sidewalks and other paved areas. The luxury of this community is not just for the houses, but for the commercial center as well, so we want palm trees everywhere. Tip number 17, place small rocks when detailing to create a community and a natural environment. Tip number 18, use mulch under trees in manicured areas. The trees don't have to come right out of the grass, but might have mulch around them in a yard or perhaps in a public park. Tip number 19, create natural ground areas, as not everything in your beachfront town will be paved or will be a manicured lawn. Let's use Sully's riverbed surfaces. You can throw in the sand ones if you prefer, or mix them up to show that this is a beachy area. Either way, natural ground areas add to the realism, as there will be areas that have not been landscaped completely or at all. With this water tower, we can mix together the riverbed and sand surfaces to create a unique look. Tip number 20, plant ferns by sinking palm trees down into the ground. Ferns create a unique ground cover, and there are tons of varieties of ferns that are native to California. If you have traveled up the northern coast to places like Redwood State Park, you will find Fern Canyon, which is a stunning hike. But Southern California also has its own varieties of ferns. I know we will eventually get more tree and bush assets, but for now, sinking the palm tree down into the ground is a good way to add ferns. We can continue filling in the area around our train line that runs down the middle of our central boulevard, blending the layers as we go and adding in more of our ferns for natural beauty. It's time to think about our remaining spaces and what else we need. Tip number 21, fill in the gaps with trees. When we built these towns, we left lots of little gaps around. Some of these were between residential lots and roads, and others between the houses themselves. I do this intentionally so that we get lots of different sizes with different assets. It also gives us a space to add trees and create a more natural look. We should try to fill in what we can with just the regular tree brush, but then we can go back over the little spaces where the brush didn't work and add individual trees with anarchy on. The oak tree is one of my favorites for this. I don't usually add the sapling, but a mix of young, medium, and elderly all work well to create variety. Let's also add more palm trees scattered around. This is not our most luxurious area, like the estates of Cape Vista, but it would still have palm trees. These homes are packed in tight, but they will be very expensive given the proximity to the beach. We can add other types of trees to the little spaces to make sure we have a good variety. If you've been watching for a while, you will notice some areas that we built several episodes ago, finally getting their trees filled in. This is probably enough. We don't want to overdo it, but rather stay true to the landscape. Tip number 22, don't neglect service buildings. Let's make our school fit the theme of Southern California by giving the school and its extension the red terracotta roof. For luxury towns like this, it is important to remember that your service buildings should stay within the theme. Tip number 23, create tourist areas. We will add a water park, which will draw families away who've had enough of the sand and surf and prefer to splash in a pool or a slide. We can also use one of our custom parking roads. Adding a tourist destination can really give your town something distinctive. I always try to make sure each town I build has something unique that makes it different from the other towns that I build. It could be a unique building, like this, or it could be a way that the homes fit into the surroundings. Cape Vista's unique feature is the estates at the end of the peninsula. Here, we're in the middle of the peninsula in the town of Mission Beach, which will get to the water park as its unique feature. This entire peninsula should be a tourist attraction, drawing in people from far and wide. This little park is just one piece of it. I'm looking forward to the fix coming for hotels and tourism that will help make tourist industry what it needs to be in the game. We can put some grass in around the park, but then let's also show the sandy undersurface as a reminder of where we are at. Tip number 24, detail your boulevards. The boulevards and major avenues in your luxury beach town should reflect the distinctive community. Towns love to line their avenues with palm trees. Here, for Oceanfront Drive, we will go down the middle with palms. I love this road, with the parking along the beach and the sand spilling over into the parking spots. Adding palm trees down the median is the perfect touch to finish it off. The line tool helps us do that. Don't be afraid to use trees of different ages. This will keep the trees from dying all at the same time, and it also makes it look just a little bit less perfect, which is good for realism. Tip number 25, add details to your beaches. This is our last special step today, and I think it is the must-do step in order to complete your beachfront luxury town. Using the deck chairs and umbrellas, we can add these finishing touches. We can really pack them in if we want, but today we're just going to scatter them around. We could also add a few palm trees to the beach itself. Let's add a few details to our little public beach on the inner side of the peninsula. This is my favorite little beach. We should also think about our private beaches, like the one at this grand estate. Well, it's time for our city development review. Today, we nearly finished the peninsula in one of the most important parts of Marathon Cove. Oceanfront Drive is beautiful and offers up the perfect place for visitors to come to the beach. Our homes and the estates have created an exclusive luxury community beside the water. Our giant Spanish Colonial homes and their Tennis Pro area offers many residents the perfect seaside residential experience. Our private beaches, blocked off by the rocky breakwaters, offer seclusion and escape from all the masses who came to visit the area. And distinct features like our water park and the smaller hidden beach offer variety and unique touches. The commercial centers are hopping in Cape Vista and Mission Beach, each with their own unique parking roads and layers of natural-looking dirt and ferns. I had so much fun building and detailing this area. I hope you followed along. If you missed previous episodes, I recommend working your way back to see how all of this was built. And if you enjoyed it, please consider adding a like or a comment. Doing so really helps me know that the effort was appreciated. Please leave your suggestions for what else you want to see in the region. I have been collecting all of your amazing ideas. Don't forget to subscribe so you can stay up to date. Much more is coming in Marathon Cove, and I am excited to share what is just around the corner. And until next time, happy building.